With the number 6 pick, the Lions should not go after Carter, even if he falls. It's too much of a question mark. His play speaks for itself. Off the field speaks for itself. And considering them both and coming up with an answer speaks for itself as well, which is a question mark. You don't really know what you're going to get. You're optimistic. Now, what is that? What does that mean? I mean, it's the same thing of drafting Sean Rogers, Nick Fairley. It's the same as drafting Luther Ellis. It's the same as drafting these unsure products. When you could go, instead of doing it that way, and do which would be the safe pick or the cheapest pick or cheapest way of doing it, you can go all out. Now I have two propositions. I'm calling Jacksonville for the rights of Josh Allen if they're willing to to do a deal. I'm doing it that way. And if not, I'm going all out to go get Anderson. Why? Because they both address two needs at once, at one. So it's like hitting, two birds with one stone. I need linebacker help and I need D-line. I need D-line assistance. So somebody could say, well, Carter plays the D tackle. I get that. But can you not also get that in the later rounds? What you cannot get is an elite player from the initially out the gate. So what you cannot get in the later rounds. Now you could find one of those gems that is okay. I guess you could say, who did that? That came out in the later rounds. I guess you could say Trey Flowers. But there's a reason why they were skipped over by all those other teams for them to select them at a later round. With New England, there's a reason for it. There's a reason why Warren Sapp went later. I think he went second round. I'm not sure. I'm not sure exactly where he went. But who is the gentleman I'm thinking about? They went later round, but they turned out to be a Hall of Famer. Who is that? Is it thinking about Dexter Manley or Charles Mann? Who am I thinking about? Chris Dishman? Was it John Randall? Who? I forgot who. I'm drawing a blank. But anyway, you guys can understand where I'm trying to go with that. What I'm saying is, you can gamble with that, but that would be equivalent to how they're doing it now thus far. We're actually taking it back, or what I just said back. That's right up the Lions SOL way. You get damaged goods. I guess you could say another man's junk is another man's treasure, but they get the junk that is not restorable. So I guess that's why they can draft a broken receiver. That's not the first time they did it. With DJ Shark, they'd done it before. They draft players coming in, drafted through the years of all that stuff. But anyway, pushing all that aside, instead of gambling that way, go get Anderson. Or the actual safest, expensive way to do it is go after Josh Allen from Jacksonville. That's the safest way to do it. If he's available, go after Josh Allen. Why? That's two birds in one stone right there. And with your latter picks, you can go after the likes of a Council and so forth. Or you can still try to do it on the cheap, which you sell the fans that, okay, you're this villain, but who are you speaking to? Who are you a villain towards? The rest of the league don't care about you. The rest of the fans don't care about you. You're trying to put yourself to be noticed. You're trying to put yourself in a position to be noticed by saying that you are a villain. I mean, you caught the world by surprise in that first initial year, right? Second year, you won't. You already don't know this. So how are you a villain? And you're a villain to what? That this is me logically speaking. How are you a villain? To who? Amongst yourself? That sounds like who was that who did that was it Jeff Fisher? Who was the quarterback that I think it was Jeff Fisher that said he had made a gutsy call. I believe it was in the fourth quarter, last minute, and instead of them doing something, he did it. I guess the unconventional way. And his interview, he said, "We're not scared." And I heard one commentator say, "Well, who is he? Who is he talking to?" And then somebody said, "Well, he must be talking to the Lions' ghosts of past." You know, you start to see things that's not there. So I guess I can see Brad Holmes' approach with this, leaving the team as status quo the way it is. Okay, you made a few moves and saying that okay, we are the villain, but who's coming after you? Only one that's coming after you is your fans that you have led astray for 50 plus years. They're finally putting a gun to your head and telling you to go ahead and move it forward. Or better yet, the fans are not even doing that. The 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 top of the organization is doing it. You putting your own gun to your own head, calling yourself a villain. If that gets you going, to get you motivated to finally win a division, or to finally even compete for the conference, I mean, we still having a discussion if you can win the division when all the other teams are, I don't know, they fell apart, disintegrated. I don't know what you want to call it. They're non-existence. And now you want to be tough? Where was all this toughness when Khalil Mack first brought over here? Where's all this toughness when Aaron Rodgers was at the top of his game? Where's all that toughness at then? Well, we didn't have Brad Holmes here. Well, you always had Brad Holmes. This team has always had Brad Holmes. People say, well, he's doing a different than everything else. The only thing he's doing differently is that he went off of something that was established. That's the only thing he did differently. Let's say Millen, Mayhew, Bob Quinn had nothing to go with. Absolutely nothing to go with. Nothing was established. When Mayhew took the job, when Millen took no, forgive me, when Millen took the job, when Mayhew took the job, when Bob Quinn took the job, nothing was established. The only thing that was established what makes Brad Holmes the difference of those three is that Bob Quinn established an offensive line. And anybody know if you have any kind of establishment on either side of the ball, dealing with the point of attack, you pretty much got your juggernaut to build off of. And that's me slighting Holmes and that saying I heard someone say that he's the best GM in Lions history. And I want to say that's off of me. You know, people would say that, okay, I'm worth to ignore because I say things that are not genuine. I haven't said anything that wasn't factual. When I say the team is average, or if I say the team takes one step forward, two steps back, that's not speaking of the past, it's thinking about right now. If you bring in a receiver that's broken, that's taking a step backwards. Why? Because that's time. What does that mean? That means your other players is going to have to carry the load until that person is ready to go. Very specifically, if that person that you bring in and you paying high dividends for, not money, but the amount of responsibility, the amount of impact that you're anticipating the individual to play with, you know, that's going to alter your team in a position to excel. Well, then that's a lot on the line. And you're asking the rest of the player to hold down the fort before they even took a snap. Now, I see if they was on the team and they got hurt, that's another thing. But you bringing them in hurt, that is how you kick the can up the street. That comes back to get you every time. And that's how the Lions have done it for 50 plus years. That's how they done it. That's why they always come in second best. And so much so, they want to claim the division when the division has imploded. Not because the Lions got good, because everybody had their run. Green Bay had their run, Bears had their run, the Vikings had their run. They all had their run, and during this stretch of the time when the Lions was trying to figure out how to continue to kick the can up the street, and now the offensive line solidified. All credit to, Bob Quinn. Thank you very much. With that solidified, now you have this typical GM comes in with this motto that that okay, we're different. We're building a culture here. You're doing it the exact same way that Millen did it. You're doing it the way that Mayhew has done it. And people say, no, tell me how he's doing it differently. He's getting players on the cheap. They're not Mayhew and Millen do the same thing? Did they not? Okay. Who is the receiver that went from DB to wide receiver that was up under Mike Martz? Who is that? Was that Fury? I can't think of his name. Doing it on the cheap. No, that's good football. Yeah, it's good football if it works out. If it doesn't, it's what? It's wasted. So right now the team is still average, but you are in the perfect position. Like I said, like I said before, we're dealing with the offensive line. Bob Quinn gave you four pieces. All Brad Holmes had to do was dot the I and cross the T. Brad Holmes didn't build up one thing yet. He didn't look at that secondary. He didn't build up one thing. That was going off the strength of who? Walker, Okuda, and Amari Warrior. Right? When Okuda's playing good, they look good. When Amari was playing good, they look good. When Walker's playing good, they look good. That's all for Quinn. Give me one group that Brad Holmes personally had to go scout and get one player to build off of to solidify that group. He hasn't done anything. And it to say that the Lions is the villain to who? Only thing he's trying to do is get the fan base on his side because the fan base is already believing that Detroit versus everybody. So now they flipped it and put it like towards them. Now the fans will say like, well, there you go, trying to be a hater. I'm logically speaking, of course. I'm speaking from the perspective of not being a Lions fan. I'm speaking of the perspective of he hasn't done anything. What has he done? He brought you a bunch of rental players, and soon as soon as they start off 1-6, the Lions fans was like, Goff is the bad quarterback. When I said the moment that they brought him here, he was the best thing that ever happened to this team. It's documented on the videos. But of course, my videos is not worth looking at because I don't have, I guess the hits, so I don't have that popularity thing. And so I'm considered as like this disingenuous person. I get that, but at the same time, Lions history is Lions history. Somebody said, "Well, we're not the same old Lions. If you haven't won a division, if you haven't won a playoff game since '91, you're the same Lions." Well, that was last year. That was the year before that. We have this. You have no excuses this year. You have no excuses. Right now, I want to say Chicago is decimated. I want to say that same thing go with Green Bay. Same thing go with Minnesota. So the division the Lions has always been put in this position where the division is given to them and they never seize it. Then Green Bay or somebody else, some other team come make a run and they take it. But they rightfully give it to the Lions. The Lions just don't know what to do with it. This is no different. The lights is not on yet. Right now, this is on paper that they're pretty good. When that lights comes on, when those games against like Carolina kicks in, where you should have won, you have no reason to lose. But go ahead and say what Carolina was the better team. It was not the better team. You just wasn't up for it, unless it's rigged. Unless you want to play that card, if you want to do that, that's not. Otherwise, this is your chance to, instead of doing it the Lions way, of Holmes is doing it no differently than how Mayhew and Millen has done it. Did not make okay. Mayhew brought in Ndamukong Suh and Javid Best, right? Millen brought in Calvin Johnson, also Charles Rogers, Mike Williams, and Roy Williams before he got Calvin Johnson. So he hit and miss with it. Never mind all the other misses that he did. Okay, let's say. So I hear all this slight towards Bob Quinn that he messed up. But everything that's holding his team together is based off of Bob Quinn. So that's my rant about Brad Holmes being this villain. Only person that consider you a villain is not even the fans. You're trying to get the fans on your side so you can start having them see it the way you see it to defend you. I get that. But at the same time, the only one to see you as a villain is you. Even you got some of these so-called, I don't know, you got this media, Detroit media, that's on your side of saying like this is the best constructed team in Lions history and all this other stuff. They haven't won a division, and they haven't won their conference. No, forgive me. They haven't won a division, and they haven't won a playoff game. The difference between this GM and let's say Mayhew and Millen is that he has something to build off of. So with the number 6 and number 18th pick, this is what you do. You trade those picks in one or two ways. With the number 6 and another whatever fillers that you got to put in, you go get Wood Anderson. Let's say if you offer them number 6 a second and maybe a fifth, whatever, to go up to go get him. You go get him. What you gonna do with those other two picks? With the number 6 pick, they say, okay, well, I hope that Carter falls. You hope that Carter falls, and with that additional hope, you hope he also pan out to be, at best, Ndamukong Suh, at worst, Gerald McCoy. Otherwise, you're stuck with Nick Fairley at 6, which is going to be a wasted, or you're going to ask for the other players to pick up the slack for his insufficiencies, which is the Lions' way. You had Ndamukong Suh, and then you draft Nick Fairley, right? That's how you do it. Or you have, who is the guy? It wasn't Robert Prochet. Who was it? Was it Jeff? Not who was the guy? I can't think of it. He was the DN, and then you drafted Sean Rogers. Sean Rogers had that first good year coming off an injury. I think Sean Rogers came from Texas, right? He had that good year coming off the injury. Came off the injury. He played good, but he didn't went back to form. So next, he's going to what? Cleveland. So that's the Lions' history. Tell me Brad Holmes done it differently. Somebody said he got you Amon Ra. Okay, 1. He got you Aiden Hutchinson. 2. He got you Penei Sewell. 3. Give me something else. Well, he got you nobody. You can't even say J-Mo. What else did he get you? So instead of doing the Lions cheap way, which is, okay, you're getting, I think it's Montgomery, or okay, you got Johnson coming in. You have the guy from the Steelers, the guy from the 49ers. You have Glasgow bringing them back in. All right, that's pretty much your filling gaps. I got you. I have that. All right. Those are cast-offs, right? Because if there was any good, their teams would have retained them. They would have franchised them. Right? So they're cast-offs. I get that. So they're going to make you the villain. I get that. Here's the problem with that. Who are your starters? If they're coming in as the cast-offs, you're asking them to do double duty. You asked them to be your star and picking up your defense where it never began. You asking them to hit the ground running on such a level that it takes you from 10 wins to 10 plus wins. Otherwise, you have the same roster that you had the previous year. You went backwards. If the players that you brought in here thus far doesn't get you 10 plus wins, you went backwards. So, like I said, this team is average. So, to make this team good, go after one or two players. You go after Josh Allen, or you go at you in the draft. It'll say if the price is too high for Josh Allen. I get that. Well, then you put all your chips in and you go after Anderson. Why? Because he instantly makes sure your linebacker core and your defensive line better instantly. That's why I said go after Josh Allen. They both do the same thing. And if I were, no, I won't do that. But I was going to talk about Josh Allen, the significance of him. Since you was too cheap to go after Ramsey. How do I know? Because you didn't give them an offer that they couldn't refuse. Well, he didn't want to come here. He didn't want to come here. Why should he want to come here? The Lions don't go all out for a player to get him to come here. They went all out for their coordinator, not even the defensive coordinator, the offensive coordinator. They went all out for that. They don't go all out for something of quality, right? Why? Because it's built on the cheap. Everything about this team is built on the cheap. Is once again is built in with I want to say Scotch tape. You know, maybe masking tape, but definitely not Gorilla tape. It's not built to last. It's why? Because the players is on 1 year deals that they're like prove it deals, and people make it sound like they're saving money. You're saving money to possibly make a trade or to be in conversation to make a trade for a player that maybe on the outs of their team based upon contract or based upon the team want to move forward. So it's a cast off. So what are you saying? You're saying you are good as somebody's second hand. When has this team ever been first hand? What does that mean? You've been so good that other teams want your players. I'm not meaning good as in your record is so good, where your players are so good that your team. The last time that the first, I won't say the first and only time that this ever happened, was Matthew Stafford, and that wasn't by the Lions' consent. That was his consent. That's why I'm saying this team is averagely built and is built with Scotch tape, and they say they're a villain. The only person you're a villain towards is yourself. Now, the fan has turned and it went from, kicking this team around. Now they're saying this team is legit. I get that. Well, then prove it. This is your division. Take it. Don't not even take it. You should hit the ground running, dominating. You have no excuse. What's your excuse? Where is how about this for expectation? If this team does not hit the ground running week 1, not preseason, week 1. Week 1 dominating from week 1. How good is this team? It's all talk. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's no good. It's a joke. And the only villain that would be in week 1 is themselves, which have been the villain that's been talking for all this time. Is that whole bite kneecaps and villain thing. I get that. It's rah-rah talk. It gets people hyped up just to sell them a paper lion. But with that being said, if you don't come out the gate dominating, I'm not talking about winning the game by 3 points and a comeback victory. I'm talking about there's your offensive line, your offense is solidified. There is absolutely no reason why you shouldn't dominate. Well, there's one reason. You didn't address the defense. If you address the defense right now, go all out with those 2 picks your team instantly go from average to good with the potential of going from good to great. With that said, Lions fans, I salute.